Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Perez coming to you from Baltimore. In the lead up to UK's Labour Party annual conference, in which a leadership struggle is taking place, Jeremy Corbyn is expected to win. However, it is to leave the Labour Party itself ripped apart. Joining us now to discuss the turmoil in Britain's Labour Party is John Weeks. John is Professor Emeritus of the University of London and author of the book, The Economics of the 1%, How Mainstream Economics Serves the Rich, Obscure Reality, and Distorts Policy. John, so good to have you with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, John, at this Saturday's annual Labour Party conference, the results of the party leadership elections will be announced. It is generally, many people are predicting that Jeremy Corbyn will be reaffirmed as the leader of the party through this election. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think people not familiar with the British political system should think of this as sort of like a party primary. The difference is that you have over about a month to cast your ballot, and you don't find out who's won until 3 or 4 days after the last ballot is made. So, I mean, the last vote is counted, and the situation is that the Labour Party, for generations, has been a top-down party. For a while, it was top-down controlled by the trade unions, and more recently, it was top-down controlled by the centrist and right wing of the party for quite a long time by Tony Blair, who was prime minister for 11 years. Now, Jeremy Corbyn changed all of that. The voting rules, I've talked before on the program about why the voting rules were in circumstances under which they were changed. They were basically changed and to try to minimize the impact of the trade unions in that party. And just a good example of the law of unintended consequences, the rule change, which was supposed to prevent a radical from being elected head of the party, resulted in a radical being elected to the party. And the situation is now there's one party, each party member gets one vote. Jeremy Corbyn swept into that, much to the horror of the overwhelming majority of members of Parliament in the Labour Party, called the Parliamentary Labour Party, almost all of whom, I don't want to exaggerate, but 80% of the Labour Party members of Parliament adhered to a philosophy more or less like Tony Blair's, and suddenly they discovered they had a leader who was a real social democrat, Jeremy Corbyn, who had been a thorn in the side of Tony Blair and every other Labour Party leader. And, of course, they were livid. And the last year has been spent trying to get rid of trying to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn. But much to the horror of those on the right and in the center of the party members love him.
Now, of course, if you were to compare this situation to a union, you have a situation where the rank and file is opposing what the leadership wants of this party. And part of that rank and file is really the momentum movement that's taking place in the UK within the Labour Party as well as outside of the party. Tell us a little bit about momentum and the role they're playing in making sure that Jeremy Corbyn stays the leader of the Labour Party.
The opponents of Jeremy Corbyn attack momentum as a organization formed of recent entrance into the Labour Party. It's called entryism, and that these are not people that are committed to the Labour Party, and that they're just a bunch of young radical Trotskyists and God knows what, who came into the party to try to shift it to the left and don't really have any interest in the Labour Party as such and don't really have any interest in winning an election. They want to put forward a left agenda. The reality bears little resemblance to that. It's not all rosy, but momentum and my experience, the experience of friends of mine who have gone along to it, who've been in the Labour Party for quite a long time, is that you have many older people in momentum. You have the people in momentum for the most part are people who've been around the Labour Party for a long time and have wanted a left-wing leader. And now they have one, and now they're supporting him. And so I think that the allegations that they're just a bunch of recent entry full of Trotskyists is not valid, though there may be some Trotskyists there. No doubt that they are. The head of Momentum, or well, more you might say the person that organized it up, is a man named John Landsman, who I have met, who had been worked for the only MP that I knew well, worked for Michael Meacher, a left-wing progressive, a very good MP who died about a year ago, and John, just about the time that Jeremy Corbyn was elected, and John Landsman began to organize this group, Momentum. So in other words, the people organizing it have been in the Labour Party for a long time. I would say the downside of Momentum is, one, it does tend to be focused on a person. I think it should be focused on social democratic policies, but it's very much focused on elect Jeremy.
But partly that's because that's a task at hand. What I wanted to ask you about is that a lot of young people are also supporting Jeremy Corbyn that are within the Momentum movement. But today something unique happened, which is a very popular mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, put his weight behind Owen Smith, who's running against Jeremy Corbyn, and also that also cited the fact that because Jeremy Corbyn was unable to successfully convince the UK population in terms of the Brexit vote to remain within the EU, he cited that as one of the reasons that he wasn't able to support Jeremy Corbyn. How much is that sentiment out there, and will it really have an effect on the election coming up within the Labour Party?
All right. First, let me say you're quite right about the young people in Momentum, but there are a lot of young people that came into the Labour Party before Momentum was formed. Jeremy Corbyn has inspired young people, and you're quite right that that given the circumstances, the question of re-electing Jeremy Corbyn, for me, it's a question of also emphasizing the policies. So I'm not saying that it's just hero worship. I'm just saying it would be useful, since Corbyn is going to win anyway, to put a bit more emphasis on policies. Anyway, but to go to your question, Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London, I worked for Sadiq Khan. He was never, he and Jeremy Corbyn have not been close in the past. Sadiq Khan is more to the center, is not as far to the left. He is, as Mayor of London, more accommodating of business interests, but having said that, he's taken very progressive policies on housing, on trade unions, and on issues such as, over here it's called zero-hour contracts, but things like Uber and delivery people who have no contracts, who are just paid by the amount of time they work. You might show up to work. If there's no work, then they don't get any, they got no pay. Sadiq Khan has taken a strong position on that. So he is definitely a progressive. He has come out for Jeremy Corbyn's opponent, Owen Smith. He has said that he is for Owen Smith. Because, as you say, of the Brexit issue, which I would like to come back to, because I think there's a lot of misrepresentation over that, and that he thinks Owen Smith is more likely to unite the party and to win the next election. that is speculative, of course. Is Owen Smith more likely to win the election? Well, the policies which Owen Smith represents did not do very well in 2015. And a year ago, a bit over a year ago, when we had an election, so it's not obvious that he would be a more popular candidate, and also it's not obvious that he would unite the Labour Party. The Labour Party is not split because Jeremy Corbyn split it. As Labour Party is split because the grassroots of the party do not hold the same views as most of the MPs. That is the basic problem. Owen Smith would face that same problem, only if he were elected, there would be an exit of people from at the grassroots level, while if Jeremy Corbyn is elected, maybe there will be a split in the parliamentary Labour Party. It is hard to say. On the Brexit issue, I think that Jeremy Corbyn has made mistakes, and his team has made mistakes. That is not one of them. A large portion, 52% of the British population voted to get out. There was an official Labour Party campaign to stay in. It was not run by Jeremy Corbyn. They did not pass it over to him when he became leader. It was run by someone who represented the right wing of the party, and he did an absolutely miserable job of it. And to blame it on Corbyn is to pick out a headline event in which the party's leadership was rejected and assign it to Corbyn when, in fact, he was not the cause of this problem.
And John, one other thing, and if you could shed some light on this issue, there was some rumor, speculation that those who joined the party with the last election within the Labour Party and elected Jeremy Corbyn, who joined for that purpose, would be disregarded in this election or should be discounted in this election. What is the actual facts surrounding that issue, and does it have any merits?
What occurred is that when Corbyn became leader, or in the process of becoming leader, a new category of Labour supporters was created, which had a much lower party fee. That is, you have to pay a membership dues to be a member of the party. And this was a very low, less than, we're talking about less than $10 to join. And that it was alleged by Corbyn's opponents and played up in the newspaper that many of these people, in fact, were not members of the Labour Party, and they had been members of other parties. They were still members of other parties. The Labour Party has a rule that says you cannot be a member of the Labour Party if you're a member of another party, such as the Green Party or the Communist Party or any other party, the Liberal Democratic Party, whatever it might be. And that many of these people, in fact, were members of other parties, and so shouldn't be party members. For that purpose, the Executive Council of the Labour Party, which is controlled by the center and the right, excluded all the people who had joined the party before the middle of January of this year. I think it will turn out to make absolutely no difference whatsoever. Jeremy Corbyn was not elected by people who joined the Labour Party for the purpose of electing him. He was elected by people who had been in the Labour Party for a very long time, who were sick of the right-wing neoliberal policies of Tony Blair. As soon as Jeremy Corbyn was nominated, everyone, it was assumed that he didn't have a chance. The first poll that was taken of Labour Party members showed him with 60% support. This was before you began to get any rush to join. That is, the existing party members overwhelmingly supported him. For better or for worse, those people who had been in the Labour Party for a long time, who were for social democracy, they felt that they had been denied a voice, and Jeremy Corbyn would provide them with that voice. And that's what's going to happen on Saturday. I have no doubt. I mean, I'm not good on predictions, but I would make this prediction. Jeremy Corbyn will be announced as winner in a two-person race, and he will probably come in last time he got 59% of the vote. I suspect he'll come in at about the same or slightly higher.
All right, John, we'll be watching, as I'm sure you will be. Hope to speak to you later next week about the results. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us on the Real News Network.